Hello everyone, this is Cobalt. This is the next video in my character analysis series for Brawlhalla. I'll be doing a brief introduction of the character followed by a frame data analysis on their signatures, and if you want to skip all this and get straight into the info, there's a timestamp in the description, and don't forget to subscribe so you can keep up with the release of your favorite legend. In these analyses, I want to focus solely on the character's signatures. Light attack combos are covered much more in depth than I ever could elsewhere, and function pseudo-comparably for all characters of that weapon class, so I'm not going to be discussing the general neutral of the character with their weapons unless it pertains in some way to their signatures. Firstly, I want to give clear descriptions of the terminology I'll be using. Startup frames are the amount of frames that happen after a move has begun until the first hitbox of the move becomes active. Active frames are the duration of frames that the move contains hitboxes that can collide with your opponent. FAF, or First Actionable Frame, is the first frame available where your character is able to move again after the move has been started. For all of this data, I use the character's jump to display the first actionable frame. Lastly, on miss refers to the move not making contact with an opponent, and on hit refers to the move making contact with an opponent. I'm going to be doing my analysis today on the next newcomer to Brawlhalla, Red Raptor the Mecha Pilot. Daisen Doro of the planet Shinsekai, a play on the Japanese Shinsekai district of Osaka, was a mecha pilot on his homeworld fighting against an army of kaiju led by Loki. Leading the Raptor force, they took down many of the kaiju, but during the final battle against a kaiju powered by the Dark Heart, Red Raptor sacrificed himself to defeat the beast, saving his homeworld and sending him to the gates of Valhalla after turning away from the road to heaven. His goal now to hunt down Loki and rescue his fallen teammates. With Thor already a character here, I think that we should probably expect Loki to be a new character at some point. Red Raptor has by far one of the coolest character designs we've seen so far. With the heavily Sentai and Kamen Rider inspired character design, they really nailed this one. Red Raptor's weapons are Battle Boots and Orb. He's the third user of the Battle Boots to come to the game. His stat distribution is 6 Strength, 6 Dexterity, 4 Defense, and 6 Speed. He has a very balanced stat spread that's very close to several other successful legends, and I think that he'll be a solid pick. While I don't think that Orb is the best in the meta at the moment, I think it's definitely not a bad weapon. And just like many of the other legends in the game, you guys know my stance on the Dexterity stat. So, will the Mecha Pilot from the New World be able to outlast the competition? Let's find out. Let's start with his Battle Boots. Battle Boots side sig has 18 frames of startup, active frames from 19 to 31 and 43 to 47 with an FAF of 70. It functions the same on miss as it does on hit. Red Raptor dashes forward with active hitboxes and finishes with a disjointed exploding kick that sends him backwards slightly. This sig has pretty high FAF, but it offers a fair bit of mobility and like many side sigs functions as a good burst option, not to mention the disjoint on that final kick is not something that you want to mess with. Battle Boots neutral sig has 18 frames of startup, active frames from 19 to 37 with an FAF of 65. It functions differently on miss than it does on hit. On hit, the move converts into a finisher with active frames from 51 to 55 and a new FAF of 78. Red Raptor leaps upward and in a very Super Sentai-esque fashion, spins repeatedly with a flurry of kicks with hitboxes surrounding him. This sig doesn't hit grounded opponents, but is really good for catching those jumping or trying to recover high at ledge. It's average in terms of its frame data, but it does have some decent coverage options. Battle Boots down sig has 21 frames of startup, active frames from 22 to 31 with an FAF of 50. It functions differently on miss than it does on hit. On hit, the move converts into a second hit with active hitboxes from 47 to 56 with a new FAF of 72. Red Raptor performs a standing backflip with active hitboxes on his outstretched foot. And if it connects, Red Raptor strikes a pose with a massive explosion behind him. This sig has above average startup, but really good FAF. It's great for covering a spot dodge and can hit opponents behind him as well, though it doesn't hit stacked opponents. Not to mention, it's got quite a bit of style. Next up is his Orb. Orb side sig has 18 frames of startup, active frames from 19 to 34 with an FAF of 64. It functions the same on miss as it does on hit. Red Raptor summons his motorcycle and rides it into the classic Akira skid. This one was a bit lackluster for me. Its average frame data doesn't really stand out, and it has just about the same threat coverage as most other side sigs. Decent burst option, but that's about it, frankly. Motorcycle looks sick, though. Orb neutral sig has 21 frames of startup, active frames from 22 to 29 with an FAF of 53. It functions the same on miss as it does on hit. Red Raptor summons a portal above him and sends a massive mecha hand out for a mean punch. It has average startup and pretty good FAF. The massive hitbox absolutely provides good coverage for jumping opponents, those recovering high, and those attempting to land. It's a good sig in my opinion, though definitely reminds me of something. Orb down sig has 28 frames of startup, active frames from 29 to 36 with an FAF of 68. It functions the same on miss as it does on hit. Red Raptor leaps upward, summoning a portal below him and extending a giant mecha foot downward. The frame data on this sig is pretty slow compared to the others, but given the jumping animation at the start, it makes sense. It could be a decent punish option for approaching opponents and a pretty solid ledge covering option as well. So overall, his SIGs are slightly above average in terms of their frame data. They aren't particularly fast, but with Orb and Battle Boots, you may not need them to be. None of his SIGs have lower than 18 frames of startup, and all but 2 have above 60 frames FAF, and the ones that do have rather limited utility, frankly. I love the design on all of these SIGs. They have immense style and some of the coolest animations and references in all of Brawlhalla, but I think that they're kind of lackluster in terms of utility, which is unfortunate. I think his neutral SIG on Battle Boots is interesting and provides good lingering coverage, and his neutral and down SIG on Orb provides some really unique coverage with large hitboxes that I think can be really good under certain circumstances. Red Raptor is one of the coolest new additions to the game, frankly, and I don't just say that because of my childhood obsession with Power Rangers. The amount of references and influences that this character has on his kit and his design are amazing, and the love that went into it is really apparent here. I really loved his narrative and the incorporation of the Dark Heart into his backstory. I hope that this character proves to be pretty viable, because he's really freaking cool. But we'll have to wait and see. As soon as a new legend drops, I'll do another one of these, so don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the release of the next legend, and hope to see you guys back for the next one. Once again, I'm Cobalt, and thanks for watching.